Welcome. Welcome back. My name is Drake and this is Touching the Edge. Welcome back or welcome for the first time. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so happy to be here with you because I know that we can make a difference in our lives today. We can create a world that's more peaceful, more just today by starting with ourselves. By starting with ourselves and understanding how we choose to frame reality and view reality affects the world. Don't mistake it. You have an effect on the world. And that is so important to realize because the world is caught in the grips of a fracturing, what I call an energetic pandemic. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about the splintering and the manifestation of further separation. Where we begin to create a sense of animus or animosity towards others, towards the other. It's so interesting. Humanity has this history of uniting when we have a common enemy. But there gets to be a point where that sense of the enemy becomes so entrenched, this sense of fear and hatred becomes so entrenched that at a certain point, many are willing to destroy the other, even if it means to destroy themselves. And so we have to interrupt this process and recognize the process involves what I call existential fatigue. Existential fatigue is that thing where you've heard just too much bad news, where you begin to lose faith in people around you and maybe even humanity as a whole. We have to interrupt this process. It becomes so powerful that we end up not being able to imagine a good outcome or positive things. So be aware of existential fatigue and its effect on people. Sometimes it makes people hate. Sometimes it makes people fear, but it never leads people to a positive place unless they realize their own agency. Urgency creates agency. So realizing that the world is in an urgent place, this urgent fracturing, means that in your world, in your heart, it's about coming together and realizing that you and the world are not separate. You cannot hate the world and love yourself at the same time. It's like having a book and really hating a large portion of it. You can't have a book that you hate half of the book and say you love the book. It doesn't work. So please realize that it's vitally important that you begin to shield your consciousness and really actively focus on where you want to go and what you see positive in us and not just the negative. Don't hide from what's going on. Don't hide from elements in Ukraine or elements in other places like Syria. Don't hide from the conflict that we see here in the United States and how people have gotten to the point where they are willing to accept, what I would consider reprehensible activities, where we look to destroy others. Please understand that this is a form of illness, energetic illness. People are not evil, they are sick. And when you have someone who is truly, truly ill, like a dog who's caught up with rabies, we don't hate that dog, even though we need to check them or set limits. We don't want to hate people who are causing conflict, because to hate them is to create more conflict. So consider doing what you can to calm yourself and then step into the world. As Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in a web of mutuality. And so choose to be powerful in that mutuality. That web is not just something that affects you. Excuse me. It is something that you can use to have an effect on others. You changing your relationship to the world changes the world. So choose to see the world as a place that you can have agency. Urgency creates agency. Focus on making a positive difference. Again, remember, hatred never creates a better world. It just doesn't work. Even when you hate those who hate, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't check or set limits. But don't take a poison that changes the essence of who you are. It's not worth taking poison to try to do something to someone else. That doesn't make sense. So activate your practice today. Activate a process that is you training yourself rather than allowing the world to train you. Interrupt elements like the speed bumps. We have to remember that we are creatures of rhythm. What we hear regularly or think regularly becomes our sense of reality. So interrupt your thought process with the speed bumps. So today I want to suggest that you make contact with some very simple statements. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. Again, you can't hate the world and love yourself. So in loving your life and realizing that the world is part of your life, you can develop a different relationship to the world even as you work for change. I will not entertain negative thoughts. I will not entertain negative thoughts. I will not entertain negative thoughts. With each of the speed bumps, as soon as you feel that first sprout of negativity, activate the speed bumps. Say it 3 times with intensity and break up the rhythm of how you say it. That will affect your deep consciousness in a way that shifts and allows you to control your focus rather than having your focus controlled. Another of the speed bumps. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. No shame, no guilt, no judgment. When you first feel that sprout of judgment, activate that speed bump. Do it regularly. Remember, it's so important for us to cool the world. This is a global warming, and we need to cool ourselves to be that cooling. I am so reminded of the woman who made such a difference in my life as a boy. When I was in 3rd grade and I'd be walking to and from school and being harassed every day or virtually every day and really living in a state of fear, not feeling safe anywhere, she reached out to me and she told me that I would be safe in her home. She said I could come here anytime. She said, I see what's happening to you and you will be safe here. Now, I want to tell you that there's no way that she could have thought that she would have made a big difference in that community that I was in that was so antagonistic against people like me. But she did. And here I am at 58 now telling you about the difference this person made in my life. You can make a difference, but choose to do it starting with yourself and shield yourself from that intensity of the negativity that is hitting us like the ocean, just pounding us. Remember the danger of existential fatigue. Existential fatigue is that state when you've heard so much bad news that you just get worn out. It's not just about right now, it's about in the course of your life. It's the trauma of childhood. It's the disappointment that comes sometimes with parents who are not the healthiest. It's the disappointment of being disappointed by human beings again and again and again. And that's where we all are. We are trapped in existential fatigue. It affects people in different ways. Some people get drawn towards hatred, and some people get drawn towards despondency, where they just end up feeling ineffectual and sort of collapsing in on themselves. Expand. Be powerful. This is your day to shine. So I want to thank you so much for who you are and the difference you can make today. Reach out to someone. Support someone. The difference that you can make with a single child might be the difference that changes the entire world. Remember that analogy of a glass with water with food coloring. You keep dropping it in. It swirls around. It doesn't look like any drop is making that big a difference. But you have one drop and it shifts everything. You may be that drop. So I'm going to ring the bell. I want to ask you to listen carefully. Here we go. I believe in humanity. I believe in you. And I believe that there is something greater than our desire to hate each other. I bring my hands into prayer position and I bow. Namaste.